What's up? Welcome to the Cohn and Krueger show. I'm Grant Cohn. That's Larry Krueger. And the theme of the week today, this week, I guess, is concern for Trey Lance. Is it real? We were talking about Debo for a while. Now it's all, I guess that was the elephant in the room, right? The Trey Lance topic. We was waiting for us. Now it's here. And we won't see him for a few weeks, but OTAs are going to start pretty soon. We're going to see him running the first team offense with no Jimmy Garoppolo, sort of dress rehearsal of what it could look like. But first, we need to talk about Brock Purdy. Larry.
Well, let's get right to it. I mean, the Niners drafted Brock Purdy, and immediately I saw comparisons. Is Brock Purdy to Trey Lance, what Kirk Cousins was to RG3? Is he there as the kind of insurance policy against, Trey Lance is somehow failing in his efforts to be the Niners starting quarterback? What do you think?
I think it's kind of a bad analogy because if I remember correctly, 10 years ago, Kyle was sort of being a contrarian. Dan Snyder sort of forced him and his dad to take RG3, and Kyle was like, Kirk Cousins is better than him. And he sort of campaigned to allow for the franchise to allow him to take a second quarterback that year. I don't think Kyle can play that game with Trey Lance. He wanted Trey Lance. He can't act like there was anyone that forced Trey Lance on him. So Purdy seems like an attempt to recreate Nick Mullins more. I mean, Kirk Cousins is one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I doubt Brock Purdy will ever be a starter. And I don't even know that Kyle thinks he'll even think. I mean, maybe he thinks that about Nate Studfeld, but not Brock Purdy. Am I wrong here?
Well, I'll say this. I think Purdy's a better prospect than Mullins, but probably not as good as Cousins. So he's in between. Now, is he halfway in between? I would say he's probably closer to Mullins than he is to Cousins. That would be my guess. But when I did watch him on the film, Grant, I thought like the arm strength was, he's not a rag arm guy. He can make more throws outside the numbers based on the film that I saw. And we'll see this summer. We'll get an up close look at it these guys side by side. But it is interesting to me that they have now another young quarterback who looks kind of like the type of quarterback who doesn't need a lot of coaching, who played a lot, who might be ready to step in and actually play. And I'm eager to see what Purdy looks like in training camp and more importantly preseason.
Doesn't Purdy seem like a classic Shanahan quarterback?
He holds the ball too long. A lot of CJ Beathard comparisons.
He's like
he holds the ball a long
like Brian
time.
Greasy.
Yeah, Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, they have a type. And I think what's so interesting is when they got Trey Lance, it surprised a lot of people. And I think coming into this offseason, some people expected Kyle to sort of show that he had changed what he looks for in quarterbacks, that they were going to sign Tyrod Taylor. That didn't happen. They signed Nate Sudfeld and drafted Brock Purdy. Like, they really do have a type. I'm not sure how Trey Lance got here.
And I don't want to be overly negative, but I do kind of feel like at this point, it's pretty clear as day that Kyle's whole comment about not wanting Kaepernick and the reasoning behind him not wanting Kaepernick was total crap.
Because what did he say?
He said that he wanted quarterbacks that were of like skill sets. Yeah. And there's no doubt that Trey Lance and Nate Sudfeld are not similar. Trey Lance and Brock Purdy are not similar.
Because I'm thinking there's going to be like a new portion of the offense, like the quarterback-driven run game. All those plays where Trey Lance is the ball carrier. If he gets hurt, that whole section of your offense is thrown away with Nate Sudfeld.
Right.
So wouldn't you want a guy like Tyrod Taylor? Apparently not. So
or maybe the goal of this year's quarterback room is to have it be, incredibly cap friendly. Right? Because Purdy, Sudfeld, Lance is pretty much your cap friendliest quarterback room in the league.
If they get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, I will give them such a standing ovation. Although if they cut him, you'll always have to wonder, like, why didn't you just do that 3 months ago? What were you waiting for? But if a team steps up and trades for Jimmy Garoppolo, my head will explode.
If they cut him, Grant, don't you think they have to offer an explanation?
Yeah, considering they've said repeatedly that they won't do it.
Yeah.
And that they should have done it months ago if they do it now. So, yeah. That's kind of
I wonder, and I was talking to Vish about this earlier today. I'm wondering, is this about Seattle? Is this about, Seattle's not going to trade for a quarterback, but Seattle would maybe pick up Jimmy as a free agent for the league minimum, and it's a game of chicken, and they just don't want him in Seattle? Is all of this about he can, don't let him wind up in Seattle, or if he does wind up in Seattle, knowing that that's the last real landing spot, if there is such a thing, that it would hurt Seattle to pick him up in July more so than if they picked him up here on the 11th of May?
It's a good question. Let's say maybe. Look at it this way. If the Niners cut Jimmy and teams can just sign him for whatever, a lot of teams might be interested at that point. New England might be interested. New England might want him back if they could get him at their price. They do that all the time with players. Let him go, trade him. Guy makes a fortune somewhere else, gets cut, comes back to New England. Now, I know they have Zappy or whatever. They really like Jimmy Garoppolo over there. So I think there's more than one team that might want to sign him, and the Niners might feel like, well, we don't want him to just walk into a really good situation. And it's like that team wins, right? You got him for nothing. You were patient. The Niners had to get cut bait, and you got him for nothing. And ultimately, if it's the Patriots, that's who you traded with. So you were talking about that scorecard that John Lynch is responsible for.
Right.
That can't happen for him.
The other factor is what's the impact on the locker room? I mean, that's kind of what the other thing I think might be going on here. It sounds like the Niners have full-blown two realities. They got the public reality and the private reality. In the private world, Trey knows he's going to be the quarterback, and all the players know he's going to be the quarterback, and all the coaches know he's going to be the quarterback. But in the public side of their face, they're creating the illusion that they don't know. Jimmy could be there. They're more than willing to go to the finish line this year with Jimmy. They've budgeted for it. They've made it abundantly clear. Is this all about getting a good return in a trade, or are they actually willing to go into another year with Jimmy and Trey on the roster?
See, to me, it's like, what does it matter what you say privately if you're going to be wishy-washy publicly? Like, this is how I look at it. If your sister was with some guy, and the guy tells the sister we're in a relationship, and tells you they're in a relationship, but like his profile, his status on Facebook is like single, and he still has his Tinder profile. Like outwardly, publicly, he's saying I'm single, but to the girl and to you and the family members and the friends, like, oh no, it's exclusive. I mean, would you put any stock into what he says privately, or would you be like, this guy's playing us and thinks we're stupid?
I would say this guy's playing us and thinks we're stupid.
So until the Niners actually put a ring on it and make it official publicly, I just don't really care what kind of signals they're sending Trey Lance. I think it's kind of disrespectful that they won't make it public at this point. But
it does matter, Grant. It does matter, because if they go to the 11th hour and say goodbye to him in July, if they've already made the announcement internally and all the players and all the coaches and Trey and all the other people know that Trey's the guy, then maybe there's no after effects of that. But if they haven't done that on the back end and they've created this illusion even internally, then there may be some veterans on that team that are like, hey, man, you did Jimmy dirty. And if you did Jimmy dirty, you might do me dirty. And now you've lost the trust of your locker room in one swoop move.
What about this? What if they've given private indications to Trey Lance and a lot of the players in the team that Lance will be the starter? But when training camp rolls around, Jimmy's still here. And there's a competition. And Jimmy wins. Won't a lot of people, won't Trey feel like he was lied to? It could go a lot of different directions.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's muddy almost by intent. It's like almost intent. It was almost like their intent to muddy this situation, because at this point there's so much misdirection. I think the fan base is just beat up by it, and they're just like, do whatever you got to do. Just do it. And
I feel like they're doing it because Kyle almost likes being a troll. He kind of likes having people on the edge of their seat trying to figure out what he's trying to do. But what I would ask him is like, how has this helped your franchise? I mean, you're messing with us, great, but no one knows what you want to do, including your own team. How is this good for your franchise? Wouldn't it be stronger in January if you just said Trey Lance is ready, or whatever, February? I mean, that's what the Chiefs did with Mahomes. You were following that model, right?
Right. I mean, that was supposedly the deal. But then we're also talking about, what does John Lynch have to still prove himself within the walls of the 49ers to the other power brokers in the organization? And if so, maybe he has to get something of value for Jimmy, or he loses face internally. I mean, there's all kinds of options here.
It's true. Matthew Sanders says, watching a bunch of Lance highlights from last year, he has a strange hitch in his delivery. Does that need to get solved? Can he be accurate as is? I'm curious to see if his mechanics look different than last year, because he's been working all offseason to tighten it up.
Yeah, and I saw that hitch as well. I think it's easily correctable, to be honest. I don't think it's something that is like, oh man, it's a foundation of how he throws and he's going to be dramatically different. But I do expect to see a smoothed out Trey Lance, who is operating the offense with a lot more efficiency and a lot more naturally, because he's been in it now for a while. And look at Matt Ryan year 1 to year 2. I mean, you could argue this is the most complex offense in the entire league, and you could argue that he was the most raw quarterback of any first round quarterback in recent memory. So to me, the redshirt year was always expected.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he had a redshirt year or not a redshirt year, but a year on the bench at North Dakota State, where he sat behind Easton Stick. 1 year on the bench, got the job as a 19-year-old and played the position, at least at North Dakota State, like he'd been doing it for a long time. He was flawless. So
and he took care. And he set the protections. He took care of the football. Yeah. That to me is his greatest. You say, what's his greatest thing? What's the trait of Trey Lance in college that stands out? It's the lack of turnovers. It's how well he took care of the football. I think that was one of the major attractions to Trey.
I mean, there are a lot of things that he did that experienced quarterbacks do, and he's really inexperienced. He actually manages the game well. He doesn't just commit a bunch of mistakes and say, well, I'll make bigger plays that'll cancel him out. He's more cautious than Jimmy.
I think the other thing that's real clear is that his mechanics on some of the nuances of the position, like the mesh point on the play action game from behind center, is so much more advanced than Jimmy. And Jimmy's played an entire career in the NFL, and Trey's hardly done anything.
Agree. All right. So Chris Sims, he said the Niners are afraid to play Trey Lance. Do you agree or disagree with that assessment?
Well, I do think that there's some apprehension. Why? Because as soon as Trey Lance starts to play, this is their biggest swing, right? This is the biggest swing they've taken as a regime. And as soon as he starts to play, they're tied to him. And his success makes them look smart, and his struggles make them look bad. And they're keenly aware of that. So I'll just say that I think they understand that. I'm not saying their careers are tied to this guy, but
they're not either.
Yeah, but they're both going to take a huge hit across the league and with the fan base if Lance is a bust, and they know that.
Yeah, and it's not because they drafted Lance with the number 3 pick. That any team could have done that. It's because they traded up, and they realized that they traded up a lot, and that's why they'll argue with you. And you say they gave up 3 firsts and a third, they'll be like 2 firsts.
Dumbest argument of all time.
But that's how sensitive they are on this topic, because they understand that they gave up too much. The package they gave up to Miami for the right to pick a college player was what you'd give up for a Pro Bowl quarterback. It's what you give up for Deshaun Watson, so you could give him a fully guaranteed contract worth $230 million. And there's no way that Trey Lance can live up to that. I mean, he doesn't even need to be the number 3 pick in the draft. You don't need to be Deshaun Watson. But after that trade, you kind of do need to be Deshaun Watson. And I think they realize it, and they're afraid to just let him go out there. Really, what would have been best for Trey is to go to a rebuilding team like Josh Allen did for Buffalo and just play, and get your feet underneath you and learn as they improve. But here, you got to be great right away, because the team is good and they gave up way too much to get you. It's a really tough spot.
And not only that, this whole season, I mean, think about it. The fan base is thinking Super Bowl. Whatever the Niners are thinking, the fan base is thinking Super Bowl.
That's right.
And so that, in some level, is the expectation. I think it's really interesting. I think Shanahan's got enough goodwill where he would survive. Lynch, I'm not sure. But what also makes it adds even more fuel to the fire is the fact that if they had stayed where they were at, they could have had Mac Jones. They could have had Mac Jones right there. He went 15.
Yeah, and I don't know if Mac Jones will ever be a top 5 quarterback in the league, and I think Trey Lance has the tools to one day potentially be a top 5 quarterback, but he also may not be a top 5 quarterback. And Mac Jones was a Pro Bowl quarterback this year. The Niners haven't had one of those since Jeff Garcia. So you could have had, a good quarterback fall in your lap, or you could have been very aggressive for someone. I don't know. It's like if they really believed in Trey Lance, I'd like to move up, but they never really showed like to me, they acted like They wanted Deshaun Watson. Civil suits started pouring in, and they made a panic move to get a pick. I still think when they got that number 3 pick, they didn't know who they were going to get. And that's why so many people said Mac Jones, because the Niners didn't even know. Like, really, Kyle Shanahan doesn't think about these players 2 years down the line. He learns who they are in January, and probably early on in the offseason, he wasn't even thinking about them. He was thinking, I'll get Stafford or I'll get Watson. And then like, oh, snap, I got to actually evaluate the top 5 quarterbacks in the draft and pretend like I'm not because I'm at 12. I don't want to do that. Let's go to 3, and I'm going to do my homework in a month. That's what I think happened.
Or he liked a couple of those quarterbacks, and he thought maybe one of them would be there at 3. I really think the guy that he really wanted was the BYU kid.
Yeah. Hey, man, don't you have Robert Saleh's number? I could have asked him that. I mean, you didn't know? You thought he wasn't taking Zach Wilson? Like, what? I don't know. Maybe he shouldn't have in retrospect. Really, in retrospect, that would have been a great spot for Trey Lance, the Jets. Because
he could have played.
Yeah, then again,
but he would have gotten his butt kicked.
Yeah, then again, it's New York, and there's not a lot of patience there. But I mean, it worked for. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see with Trey Lance. Double B Studio says Niners are bluffing to keep interest for trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, that bluff is really been working out.
Yeah, who is buying that bluff right now?
They've been bluffing for years. Chase Shears says, so if they think, hold on. So if the Niners think Jimmy Garoppolo can go to Seattle, back to New England or anywhere else and win, then why the hell do they think they need Lance? Either they think Lance is great, like drastically better than Jimmy Garoppolo, or they're just bad as a front office. Fair point. I think Garoppolo would go back to New England as a backup, not as a starter. A backup for Mac Jones.
Yeah, well, they're not. Yeah, he's not going to go. I think you could argue that Mac Jones is more efficient right now than Jimmy Garoppolo. And as far as Seattle goes, that one is interesting because to me, Grant, that's the nightmare scenario for the Niners. He goes to Seattle, they get him for nothing. The Niners are forced to release him, and then Seattle goes 2-0 against the Niners, and Jimmy plays well in those 2 games. That's where I think if you're it's not good. I think it would probably cost somebody their gig. I don't know who, but it would cost somebody.
Yeah, and it's like maybe the Seahawks would do it just to spite him. See, I was thinking, I've been having this joke with Josh Dubow, who writes for AP, that the Niners should trade Jimmy Garoppolo to a team and to Seattle. But the rule is he has to play against the 49ers. He can fit the rest of the season, but when the Niners play Seattle, Jimmy Garoppolo has to play. That's what I was saying. But
yeah,
exactly. If he beats the Niners, you're right. Someone gets fired immediately.
Imagine the you think people are losing their mind now. Imagine if he went to Seattle and somehow, because I think Seattle had a phenomenal draft and they've got a really strong running game, and I think they got the best running back in the draft. Can't Jimmy hand it off to Kenneth Walker III and throw a couple play action passes down the field to Lockett or Metcalf? I think he can. So I mean, to me, if I'm the Niners, there's a big difference between you don't think he's got enough upside to win you championships and you don't want him in your division. There's a big stretch there. So it's not like it's, you could still not want Jimmy, not believe you can win a Super Bowl with Jimmy, believe you need to upgrade the quarterback, and still not want him in Seattle.
I think there's something to this, that the Niners don't want Jimmy Garoppolo to get cut and then sign for cheap and be a starter somewhere and potentially have a good year. So I think what the Niners could do is just hold on to him until all the starters' jobs are gone for good, and then cut him so that he can't be a starter somewhere. I don't know. Seattle seems to be content to wait, though.
What's the
reason? I think they want the first pick. I think they're tanking Seattle.
You think so?
Yes.
I think Seattle's going to be good.
Yeah? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Fair enough.
I really think they're going to be good. I know people have them last, but yeah, I mean, imagine what it's like if Trey hits bumps in the road, struggles or gets hurt, Garoppolo's in Seattle, and they go to the playoffs, and the Niners go 6-11.
Oh wow, it would almost be too good from my perspective. Not from
I would say your videos would blow up.
Oh God,
the channel, both of our channels would just do. I hate to wish for that, but I mean, it'd be good.
Yeah, me too. All right, let me ask you a question. Enough about Jimmy for now. Let's go back to Trey. Let's say, forget the scenario where Jimmy Garoppolo is a wild success when he leaves, because I'm skeptical of that. But
right,
what about the scenario where Trey Lance is a bust? And I'm not saying like Jamarcus Russell bust. I'm talking like Carson Wentz bust, Jared Goff bust. The kind of player where went to a Pro Bowl, maybe went to a couple of Pro Bowls, maybe even was an MVP candidate one year, but didn't get this, wasn't necessarily a longtime franchise quarterback, didn't reach the expectations of that massive trade. Would one or both of Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch survive?
I think Shanahan would, because he's just so widely acclaimed as such a great play caller, play deviser, play schemer, play sequencer. I think his value is kind of firmly established and it's kind of accepted across the board. You know, if every NFL coach was a free agent, he would get a top 5 contract, no doubt. He might get a top 3 contract if they were all free agents, despite never winning a Super Bowl. So I think he's held in that high regard. Lynch, on the other hand, is a great public face for the team, but he's very much an unproven entity, I think, as an evaluator.
Yeah, but here's what's going to happen. Lynch is smart. And if this goes sideways with Lance, he's going to distance himself from this real quick and be like, this was Kyle's guy. I wanted Jimmy Garoppolo. I wanted Mac Jones. And I think Kyle's going to have to own this one. He can't put this on anyone else. This is his team. He wanted Trey Lance. And I think what's going to look bad for him, if he's wrong on Lance, is that, yes, he's very good. His scheme is everyone wants his scheme. But do you want him picking your quarterback? Because it doesn't seem like he's able to do that. He's had a lot of chances. He did good when he inherited Matt Ryan. But when he had a team where he had carte blanche to do whatever the hell he wanted, I mean, he passed on Mahomes, he passed on Stafford, he passed on Brady.
Watson.
He passed on everyone, yes. And so I think he might get the reputation of great scheme, no clue what he's doing at the quarterback position. That's bad. That's bad. He doesn't want that to happen right now because that's not his reputation right now.
You know, it's interesting. I keep coming back to that draft, the pre-draft presser last year, where Shanahan appeared to be telling everybody that he wanted Mac Jones, or he was like basically arguing with people about the value of Mac Jones.
That he was definitely worth the number 3 pick if they took him.
Right. And then, and it was very bizarre because there was no reason to do that. There was no reason to do that. It made me feel like Kyle really did want Mac Jones. So he's smart enough to know that you cannot trade those kind of assets to move into the top 3 and then not be all in on your quarterback. So as soon as they made the pick, he was all in. But man, that pre draft presser, man, it really sounded like he was all about Mac Jones and that other people were pushing him to this selection. And who knows if that will ever come out or if there will ever be anything there. But that's the indication, or that's a feeling I got from watching that.
That's a feeling I know a lot of people in the media have. But the way I interpret it isn't necessarily that someone in the organization pushed him. I think it's like society pushed him. You know what I mean? Like he probably wanted Mac Jones at 3 and thought he could, that he had the cachet to do that. And he realized like, not only did he not have the cachet to do that, he was going to lose a lot of public support if he did that. And not only that, like given where we were at the time as a society, people were going to call him racist. I mean, it was getting like that type of, tone was coming out. Like, does Kyle only like white quarterbacks? And I think he was like, wait a second. Just because I like Mac Jones doesn't mean I'm racist. Doesn't mean I don't like black quarterbacks. And I think he almost got a little defensive and like, okay, well, yeah, I do like Mac Jones, but I can make it work with Trey Lance. I like Trey Lance too. Lance may not be ready right away, but I can make it work with Lance. And maybe he did this just to be defensive because he's like, wait, hold on. I'm not the way people are painting me. I'm the good guy here.
It's really interesting. It's an interesting angle. I will also say this. I think Kyle Shanahan, in a way, with this pick of Lance, kind of called his own bluff. He's never developed a young quarterback. And don't at me with RG3. RG3 is a bust who's on TV right now, and he's like 27. I mean, he did not develop RG3. When having a singular good season is not developing a quarterback.
He didn't develop Kirk Cousins either.
But if RG3 still had an NFL career, was a Pro Bowler right now, you could say, well, he had a hand in developing him. He's out of the league. So there is no young quarterback that Kyle has developed. And I think Kyle's a great play caller, great play sequencer. Doesn't mean that he's a personnel evaluator. Doesn't mean that he can evaluate quarterbacks that are right for his system. Time's going to tell on this one, but in a way, I think he called his own bluff because he drafted the quarterback with unbelievable tools that needs refinement, and now it's basically all on him to usher in that refinement either directly or through his quarterback coach.
I think we bullied him as a society. I remember he traded up a full month before the draft. And what did he say? Like, hey, when I'm at the supermarket or when I'm at my kid's soccer game, please leave me alone. He said that. And what was he talking about? When people would go up to him that month, they were basically saying, who are you going to draft? And please don't draft Mac Jones. I'm sure he got that a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
really he heard it.
He heard it from everywhere. Don't do it. Don't do it. No one trusted him on this. And I think he didn't want the smoke. I don't think he wanted the smoke.
There were a lot of people around him right on draft day who, I say around him, around the team, who were making their arguments that Mac Jones was the best player. They were getting ready to defend Mac Jones as the selection. They really were.
Wow. It just shows you that
heard it on the radio.
Doesn't necessarily communicate what he wants to do that much. I think he likes leaving people in the dark. I think he's a natural troll. And I say this as a natural troll myself. Troll recognized troll.
Game recognizes game.
Richie says Lynch couldn't get a deal done. Maybe Parag stepped in and said now they need to hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo till a specific date to minimize the money owed to Jimmy Garoppolo. Can they really just wait until he passes a physical and then move him the next day and trade him the next day? I don't know.
To me, the big line of demarcation is the uniform. Does he put a uniform on and take the field?
You better not. What a bad look that would be. We're Runa Mafia, says Larry. You had me until Jimmy plays well. Brian J says supposedly we play the Panthers week 1. Trey versus Jimmy week 1.
I saw that. Did you see that?
I did not see that. Is that
there was a leak on the schedule, and supposedly it goes Niners Panthers week 1, maybe Niners Falcons week 2. What if Jimmy winds up with the Panthers and we get a week 1 Trey Jimmy showdown? That would be damn good. I'm not surprised
that they open up back to back on the road again, if that's true, because I think the Niners might request it every year because they don't like the September hot heat. Levi's. They don't like that because it's a headline. Levi's, someone had a heat. Like they don't want that. So I think they're like, can we please start on the road? They did last year. And if they get Carolina and Atlanta back to back, boy, just like last year, an easy 2-0 start. It's good news.
By the way, I think that's advantage Niners. Start on the road. Then you don't have there's a little pressure in week 1. You're just developing and finding out about your football team, no matter how established you are. I like the idea of starting on the road anyway. I think it's pressure on the home team.
Go play Sam Darnold. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
They're better on the road anyway. They're not the greatest home team.
You could, Grant, ask Pops about that. They weren't the greatest home team when they were awesome. The Niners would all in their heyday would often lose an early season home game in the 80s and 90s. Yep. Happened all the time.
I have no J55F100 says Kyle did not want Mac Jones. He likes durable quarterbacks. He was all in on Watson until it came out. He wanted, Lance was the best versus Fields. Yeah, I preferred Lance to Fields. Durable quarterbacks. Mac wasn't durable? He likes durable quarterbacks. Why does he like Jimmy then?
Yeah. Or did he ever like Jimmy? Or did he just have 45 minutes to make his decision? And they just said, the price is too good. We'll just do it. Second round pick.
And then he realized, wow, this is not my kind of quarterback. Sean says that presser was poker to make sure he got Lance. Okay. Just to make it seem like he liked Mac Jones. Okay.
You had the third pick in a draft that had the Clemson quarterback going 1. So and then you knew Zach Wilson was going to be there too. I just think he liked Zach Wilson, and he thought he had to be top 3 for Zach Wilson. He was going to let it shake out.
Official BNA Music 88 says Lynch saw that Brady TV money. Yeah, that's where the money is. Talking about football, not being a GM or a coach. Just talk about it. Larry and I'll tell you that. That's where the money is. So maybe Lynch will bail after this year. Although I think he was waiting for the job that Brady ultimately got. No?
I can't believe Brady got that kind of money, Grant. That one's shocking to me. People are going to watch those games anyway. I don't understand why he's getting that kind of cash.
Pete, Double B Studio says Pete C was waiting for Sudfeld to get cut. Yeah, Sudfeld, he's the one. He's just so
shrewd take.
Shrewd take. All right. How concerning is Trey Lance's low completion percentage?
Well, it's I think it's a concern. I mean,
57.7 last season.
Yeah, and if you looked at it, I mean, you take out like one half of one game, it was like 52%. Yeah, I mean, I would say a good completion percentage has got to be at least 64, 65 or higher, and he's 52, 57 in that range. And he doesn't throw the most catchable ball, and he doesn't throw a consistent spiral. So yeah, to me, a high completion percentage is a huge. The completion percentage period is a huge factor, and a low completion percentage is concerning. If it stays low, it's very concerning.
Absolutely. I just don't think it's a concern yet because I think he's like the ultimate small sample size guy.
Sure.
I mean, he's got 2 starts, and in the second one, he completed 70% of his throws. So maybe not. It could be. In preseason, I know he was 19 of 41. He had 10 drops. Now he's partially responsible for the drops, but I think his accuracy essentially is decent enough. And with this offense, he should be able to complete 70% of his throws if he's not like throwing 90-mile-an-hour slants. Like if he can not do that, I think just the offense around him should boost his completion percentage. I mean, they can always let him do the little shovel pass thing that they did for Jimmy Garoppolo. I call those the Jimmy Gimmies. They should be able to manufacture a higher completion percentage for him. If they can't, then yeah, it's a big problem.
If it doesn't improve dramatically a la Josh Allen, it's a concern. But when you watch Josh Allen and you watch him at Wyoming and then you saw him early with Buffalo and then you saw him this year, there's belief that it's going to get a lot better.
I mean, he did complete 67% of his passes that year at North Dakota State. I mean, I think he makes good decisions with the ball. He doesn't force it. He may not be the most naturally accurate quarterback, but I think in this system with Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, I think he's going to have a high completion percentage. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be like 2015 Cam Newton where he's the MVP, but he's completing 55% of his passes because he's throwing everything down the field. Like, I don't think the offense is really set up for that. I think there's going to be a lot of easy stuff built in. And as long as he doesn't throw it as hard as he can, it should be okay.
To me, this is more about Kyle than it is about Lance because his completion percentage in that Arizona game, throw the guy a couple swing passes, throw the guy some passes in the flat. How about a shallow cross? There are ways to scheme up a higher completion percentage. Heck, is Kyler Murray the most accurate quarterback in the NFL? No, but he's accurate enough, and a lot of Kingsbury's stuff is underneath. And that's what builds up your percentage.
Yeah, I mean, in his second start ever, Trey Lance was 16 of 23. So is that going to be the norm for him? I have no idea, but we know that him and Kyle can do it. So I think they can figure it out. I think, like you said, it comes down to Kyle. Kyle has a really good feel for how to call plays for Jimmy Garoppolo, how to accentuate his strengths and minimize his weaknesses. Like that took time. I think it's going to take a little bit of time with Kyle, with Trey, but they should be able to do it. He's done it. He did it in the second start. We saw it big time in the second half of that start.
Shovel passes. Yeah. I mean, if you want, there's ways to keep the ball out of the air and still quote unquote throw passes. And that shovel pass play, which they seem to love, is a way to manufacture a higher completion percentage.
Also, get Trey Lance in space by moving the pocket with rollouts left and right. Jimmy Garoppolo was so heavy-footed he couldn't really get away from the pass rush, but Trey Lance just accelerates away from it. Give him space. He's really natural throwing the ball in the move anyway.
Yeah. I thought, that touchdown to Debo where he got outside the pocket and threw his laser down the field. I think Trey's arm talent is, if you can get him out of the pocket and give him a couple extra seconds to survey the field, I think he could be deadly.
Absolutely. And his biggest runs are going to come when he's scrambling, not necessarily on the zone read. I think he averaged like 11 yards a carry on scrambles last year.
And he doesn't take hits on the scrambles. He does take hits on the design quarterback runs.
He does. All right, I'm gonna list 4 players. You tell me if the Niners really believe in any of them. I'm gonna go one by one. First player, guy they say they believe in, Aaron Banks.
I think Lynch believes in him. I think the offensive line coach, Chris Forrester, does not. That would be my guess.
I think that's a very astute guess. I mean, Lynch drafted him, right? He's not going to give up on him after 1 year.
Lynch doubled down. What was it? Was it November, Grant? When was it? When he doubled down late in the year and said he's going to be a very good player?
Right. Well, that depends on what the offensive line coach thinks, right? So far, he hasn't been exactly enthusiastic. So we always wonder the fit there. All right, I'm with you. I don't think the offensive line believes in him, and I coach believes in him, and I don't think he's going to start. All right, next player, Jalen Moore.
I think the Niners do believe in him. I think Lynch believes in him, and I think the coaches believe in him. I just think that, he's got refinement that needs work on in pass protection, and they didn't feel comfortable putting him at tackle and letting him man a ton of snaps against some of the greatest speed rushers the league has to offer. So I think he just needs more development, and they saw that in the preseason, and that's why he was supposed to split time with Compton. That split, if I'm Jalen Moore, I'd be saying, well, what about my side of the split? That was quite a split they had last year.
I think they definitely believe in Moore. What happened was I think they drafted him to be a guard, but Justin School went down and he really had to be their swing tackle in training camp. He got a lot of reps at left tackle, right tackle. And I think they felt that he's extremely encouraging. I think they also felt he wasn't strong enough to hold up. And that's why they went with 30-something-year-old Tom Compton, which was the right move. But if he gets stronger, Jalen Moore, I think that'll be a guy they begin to rely on, a la Colton Kivitz, who they didn't use right away, but has gotten stronger and is someone that they seem to trust a little bit. So I do think they believe in Jalen Moore. And I don't know if they see him as a right tackle or a left guard, but I think he'll probably be in the starting lineup eventually.
There's a lot of offensive linemen. There's teams that don't believe in drafting offensive linemen. They believe more in signing offensive linemen because there's a belief that no matter how good they are, that they're not strong enough or smart enough or seasoned enough to actually help you early. And so there's a belief that you got to wait a couple years before you really play them, that good teams don't play rookie offensive linemen. So I think they believe in Moore, but I think they know he needs more seasoning.
If only the Niners could have created $25 million in cap space, so they could have signed a couple offensive linemen. But
right? How could they have done that? Gosh, it's really hard to figure.
I keep asking people. I should do the research. Are the Niners the only team in the league that could create that much cap space, but simply choose not to? Like, we're good. We'd rather.
Yeah,
we're good.
We don't, and we can sign a rookie class without moving Jimmy as well. We'll just we'll redo a couple deals here and there, and maybe cut Samson Ebukam or something.
Speaking of which, are the 49ers too deep on the defensive line? It seems like they're 13 or 14 deep of NFL defensive linemen, guys who are going to end up on someone's roster.
I think they are. I think they're too deep on the defensive line. I know people who are watching this going scoffing. Oh my God, that's the dumbest comment of all time. You can never be, you can never be too deep on the defensive line. I get that, but get this. There's a 53-man roster, and you're going to have to cut that thing down. So when I say too deep, I mean they're not going to go to the finish line on cutdown day with 4 lines of defensive linemen. They're not, because you can't have them all on the roster. So I say between now and that cut down, an Ebukam, a Menahue, or somebody who's not starting is going to get dealt for a day 3 pick this summer before the cut down.
I think,
or maybe at the cut down.
I think it's going to be Ebukam. They say like $8 million if they get rid of him. And while he's good, he's not $8 million good. And it seems like they may have needed him last year because D Ford wasn't available, but now they have Drake Jackson, Kemoko Toure, Kerry Hyder. Like they got 3 guys.
Menahue, Charles, they got Jordan Willis, they got Alex Barrett. I mean, they got guys.
It's by far the deepest position on the team, D end, and they need $8 million. They don't have $750,000 in cap space. They can't sign their free agents. They can't give Deebo Samuel a signing bonus. So yeah, Ebukam, not looking good.
And a jumbo payment in year 2 for Ebukam. So they kind of structured this deal almost like they were either going to redo his deal or cut him loose.
Yeah, they got to see if anyone wants Ebukam at his price. If not, they might cut him. Sorry, Samson. It's not your fault. Yeah. It's numbers game. But once they signed Kemoko Toure and drafted Drake Jackson, it was bad news. You should have seen it coming.
They are going. My guess is, Grant, they're going to play Ebukam in some sack favorable spots in the first couple preseason games. Hope he can free himself up for a couple of cheap sacks, and then pawn him off to one of the 25 teams in the league that's looking for more pass rush, maybe for a 6th-round pick.
You still think the Niners get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo before training camp, right?
I do. I do not think. To me, the line of demarcation is: does he put a uniform on and take the field? And I just do not think it's going to happen. I'll be shocked if it does.
I hope it does. Please, please. Regular Ryan said Mac wasn't even in the top 20 in mocks until the trade for number 3, and then drunken 100 mil made things worse. Yeah, the drunken 100 mil made things worse. I think I made things worse. I was really riling up the fan base, but not just me. I mean, the fans were terrified that he was going to be the pick, which is funny. A lot of people wanted Justin Fields, and I think it's pretty clear that Mac Jones is better than Justin Fields. Although you know what? I won't even say that. They're not helping him at all. What is with the Bears? It's like they haven't noticed that in the last 50 years, it's become an offensive quarterback-driven league, and they're like, we'll get a quarterback, and we'll help him by getting defense. Like, no, it never works for you. Why do you do that why do you draft these guys? It's terrible, man. It's terrible.
I'll tell you this about Fields. That throw that he made in the end zone against the Niners showed incredible accuracy. As far as Jones, I think when that picture surfaced of his 45-year-old man body, I think that where people were like, you're going to take this guy over Justin Fields, Trey Lance? No way, no how.
Yeah, pretty much. Ezio Sanchez says Lance will have a higher completion percentage than Jimmy. Lance only played 2.5 games. He's being judged too hard. Who knows?
I agree with that. I don't think he should be. I think he's being way scrutinized.
I know. And it's because of the trade. It's like, if you go back and look, Trevor Lawrence was pretty not good last year at Jacksonville, but no one talks about it because why would you scrutinize a young player on a bad team? Okay.
Well, how about Zach Wilson, Grant? I mean, he had 2 years last year. The first year, he looked terrible. He got his butt kicked. He was running for his life. He looked like a bust. They were openly discussing it in the tabloids. The last 2 months of the year, he had like 1 turnover, and he played on a totally different level. And now now he's the second coming, and they've got great hope for him. So it's, he had that opportunity to play, fail, and then try again and succeed. Will the Niners allow that to happen this year? Will they give him that kind of wide berth?
Can't wait to see. Ninth Wonder Comics says Trey will force defenses to play 11 on 10 football. We'll say 11 on 11. That alone will make this offense a lot better than last year. Played 10 on 11 versus Jimmy. Big difference. Yeah, I think their run game is going to be better this year. I think they're going to run more. I think their yards per carry is going to go up. That's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, anybody who knows defensive football knows if you got a quarterback who can run, that's one more guy you got to account for in the run game. That's one more option. I'm looking forward to seeing Trey going one way and maybe a guy like Danny Gray going the other way on some of these handoffs. And you know what? You got a 4-3 guy and you got a quarterback with mobility, and you make the call. You pick up the mesh point. You find the football. I think it's going to be very challenging for defenses.
This is a team that could average 5 yards a carry. This is a team that could rush for 3,000 yards. I think that's going to be some of the goals for the 49ers. I don't think they're going to pass very much. Because even Trey Lance, what's interesting about him, even in college, he didn't throw that much. He would have games where he'd have 12, 15, 18 attempts. He's fine playing that way. Kind of like Jimmy. He's fine playing. Yeah.
Except Jimmy with a bigger arm and Jimmy with a guy who takes better care of the football. The other thing I saw when I watched Trey that I never saw with Jimmy is that Trey doesn't make the same mistake over and over and over again. Jimmy often did. Almost every one of his picks was late in the down, over the middle, floating into coverage. I mean, he made that mistake 15 times.
What was so remarkable about Trey Lance in that season at North Dakota State is he essentially played mistake-free football. You rarely see that. Will it translate? We'll see. I mean, it didn't necessarily translate his rookie year, but we'll see. That's how he likes to play. He's a game manager at heart. It's kind of nice. Yeah. Darius Ali says, AZ game, Trey had dimes dropped by Debo, Sanu, etc. That game was such a cluster. I don't know what the Niners were trying to do that week. I don't know what the hell that was.
Worst plan of all time.
Chris Murphy says underwhelmed smokescreen by officials to help trade. Why would you call up Matt Lombardo if you needed a smokescreen? Like, who is Matt? I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, your video on Matt Lombardo was spot on as well. I saw that video. Basically, Lombardo's information was secondhand information, and it was dated.
Old. Yeah. It's like, thanks for telling us now.
Right.
David W says, who do you predict will be the starting cornerbacks? Thomas opposite Ward. Can Lenore play nickel? I'm thinking Ward and Mosley outside and inside. Maybe Lenore, maybe Womack. What do you think?
I'm thinking Thomas and Ward outside and Mosley inside. That's what I'm thinking.
Interesting.
Ambry and Charvarius on the outside, Mosley on the inside. I do think Lenore is going to be a whole lot better, though.
Gammon Brown says, kudos to you, Grant, on the fan trolling topics. LOL. Thanks. Aaron Navarro says going from 3 Pro Bowl offensive linemen to 1 is very concerning. Yes, absolutely. And that's essentially what the Niners are doing. I don't really know if Alex Mack is coming back. It's May 11th and they still haven't found out. That doesn't sound promising. And they're talking about Nick Zakelj playing center. Great. Yeah, do that. Have a guy who's never played center start at center this year. That sounds great.
Yeah, and I like Zakelj, but I mean, that's a projection. And also, we haven't even discussed the fact he played at Fordham. You know, he wasn't playing for Mississippi State in the SEC. He's playing for Fordham. But he's tough and smart. There's no doubt about that. Makes him a good prospect. I think their O-line picks were great for future depth, but lousy if you're looking for a plug-and-play guy.
They didn't need a plug-and-play center. They have Jake Brendel.
There you go.
They mentioned him 3 or 4 times in the press conferences after the draft. It's like, who the hell is Jake Brendel? No, he went to UCLA. I'm sorry, Jake. I know you're a great player. Proud. Do the 49ers still believe in Tavares Moore at safety, in your opinion, Larry?
Oh, my God. I mean, if they do, do they have their projectors all break? Did they not see the angle that he took on Juju Smith-Schuster on the sideline route against the Steelers a couple seasons back, where it should have been like an 11-yard gain and it went for like a 40-yard touchdown? I mean, this guy, I was saying it the other day on a live stream, Grant, if this guy was driving from San Francisco to LA, I would expect him to be broken down in like Las Vegas. You know what I mean? I mean, that's Tarvarius Moore's angle. He is a corner. He does not play angles worth a damn. He's not a safety. He's big, strong, fast, but not instinctive and not a safety.
I don't think they ever believed in him as a safety. I think they gave him a shot at safety after he washed out at corner. They believed in him at corner when they drafted him. There was hope that he could be.
Yeah, he's huge and fast.
Yeah, exactly. And then that didn't happen. He was not a natural corner. They put him back to his natural position and realized he cannot track ball carriers in the open field to save his life. So he's a special teamer. They drafted a core special teamer in round 3. It wasn't ideal, but that's what he's here to do. And special teams was so bad last year that they definitely need him to come back and play special teams. But no, they believe in Talanoa for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I'll say that, but Shanahan sure talked up Tarvarius Moore, so it makes me think that they may be trying to trade him too.
I would think so. He's don't forget about Tarvarius.
Yeah, and teams always need corners, and this guy, they'll look at the thing, oh, he ran 4.32, and he's 6'1", 205 pounds, and oh, great, take him.
Great, please. J55F100 says Trey just needs to drop one big pass a game to open the run game, making the run game way more efficient, especially now with the burner wide receiver we just got. I mean, as long as Kyle gives Trey a few opportunities where the play action, pocket movement stuff, even if it's not open, he could run for 10 yards. I mean, I think that, there should be some explosive play, many more explosive plays this year than last year. I would expect.
They're going to take their shots down the field. And to me, the best pick on the offense was clearly Danny Gray, because Danny Gray creates all the space. And now these guys, when they throw it to Debo and they throw it to Ayuk and they throw it to Kittle and they throw it to Jawan Jennings, those guys are going to turn off their shoulder and nobody's going to be there. Where last year there was another guy waiting for him, and Danny Gray is going to create all that space.
I'm going to see Danny Gray practice on Friday, rookie minicamp. I'm going to be real curious. I'm not going to know if he's good, but I'll know if he's not. So we'll see.
You'll see the speed. You'll see that speed.
Absolutely. The thing was, when I saw Debo early on, it was clear that he was good. He was just so freaking fast, way faster than I realized. Dante Pettis was the other way. So I'm open-minded with Danny Gray, but we will start to see something soon. It's going to be fun. Tavares Moore? No, they don't believe in him. Last topic. Who do you think is the number one prime candidate to be the surprise of training camp? The guy who captures everyone's hearts, kind of like last year's Trent Sherfield. No, I'm kidding, but sort of.
Wow, that is tough. I'm going to give you 2 names. I'm going to say Quantrez Knight, the UCLA kid who plays the corner and is really, I think, a really good football player. And then I'm going to say the San Diego State linebacker, Segun Alubi. What'd you call me? Segun Alubi runs 4.45.
Yep.
And when I watched the film, he's 225. And then I watched San Diego State's defense this year. They were terrific. So I really like, Alubi as a 4.45 linebacker who, is going to be something to watch. I mean, when you have 4.5 speed in the NFL linebacker, you're flying. When you're sub 4.5, I got to see what it looks like, man. I really am intrigued by him flying all over the field.
Okay, I think I have a prediction here, and I'm a little cynical, but it comes from experience. Usually, the new Shanahan offensive weapon gets a lot of attention in the offseason. It may not translate, but
TDP.
when Kyle got Marquise Goodwin got all the headlines in the offseason. And I think Ray McLeod, people are going to be fascinated by Ray. I think he's going to have some good practices. I think he's going to be explosive. I think Kyle's going to want to use him. He's going to be involved in the offense, and people are going to talk a lot about Ray. I think is going to be. I don't know if he's going to have a big year. I think he's going to have a big training camp. Ray.
I'll piggyback that. I can envision a huge training camp for Ray and a week 1 fumble that buries him in the depth chart.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes, he's going to be this.
You know that week 1 fumble's coming,
and then you'll never hear from him again. He'll be Trent Sherfield 2.0.
He'll be like anybody but Ray. The Niners like Ray. Do you remember they had a Ray Armstrong?
They did. If your name is Ray, the Niners are probably going to scout you, bring you in for a workout, and seriously consider you. Maybe give you millions of dollars.
Right. Ray Armstrong, Ray McLeod.
Anyone else, man, on defense? Maybe Kevin Givens. I've liked that guy every single year. I feel like he's been steadily improving, and he might – I don't know if he can be a real great run defender as a nose tackle, but I think he's a hell of a pass rusher.
You know, it's interesting. I'll tell you the other guy that I'm really interested to see, and I can't even make this prediction with a straight face because he's not even on the roster. He's supposedly going to get a tryout Friday at that practice you're going to, and that's the Hawaii kid, Calvin Turner. You know, I'm a little too much of a degenerate gambler, Grant, so I've thrown Hawaii in on late parlays, and Calvin Turner is awesome. And he, in a lot of ways, I'm shocked that Calvin Turner did not get drafted. Supposedly the Niners and Ravens are inviting him to rookie minicamp, and he's accepted. He's kind of like Debo. He's smaller, but he's a running back, wide receiver, great receiver out of the backfield, and he's just a playmaker, man. He was a great college football player, so I'm looking for him to do something. He's not
I'll tell you who won't
yet.
be the surprise of training camp. Nate Sudfeld. I've seen him before. I don't get it. I know people think they like him, but he wasn't necessarily much better than Josh Rosen last year, but people love him.
Never really saw it. I mean, I know he's got big stature. He's 6'4", but to me, the arm is underwhelming. I saw his Indiana film, watched it for a half hour, didn't see anything that I thought was like, wow. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say about Nate Sudfeld other than he obviously was hanging with Trey Lance at the Warrior game the other night.
Well, if you're correct and Jimmy Garoppolo is not on this team at all in training camp, then maybe Brock Purdy will be the surprise of training camp.
What if Brock Purdy wins the job? What if Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, goes to camp and is like the best quarterback and it ain't close?
Do you think he has it in him? Is there a chance in hell that happens?
He had. I'll say this: when I saw the pick, I went, "Oh, really?"
Yeah.
Because I kind of thought of him as kind of a smallish guy who holds the ball too long, and I'm thinking he's a smaller version of C.J. Beathard. But then when you watch the arm strength, he's got a little zip on the ball. It's not like he's not Nick Mullins.
C.J. did not. No. Mullins did not. No.
Mullins
Jimmy doesn't anymore.
No. Okay. Yeah. That's why they wanted to replace him. We have to remind ourselves of that. That was the real reason.
I always like watching a glorified undrafted free agent try to make his way, and I hope he does well. Because really, Jimmy doesn't need to be there, and Sudfeld doesn't need to be there. If Purdy can be something, great, good job. Looking forward to seeing it.
Exactly. And a cheap quarterback room is good for the roster.
It is. Most people wanted Watson. Says Mr. Mogul Rye. How is Danny inferior? I don't understand.
Who's Danny?
Who's Danny?
Oh, you're talking about Christian Watson.
Oh, Danny Gray.
How's Danny inferior to Christian Watson? Christian Watson's 6'5". Yeah. Danny Gray is 6'1", I think.
Yeah.
Christian Watson, has got huge stature and great first step quickness. I think Gray's more explosive, to be honest. I think Gray's faster. I don't care what the 40 time says. I watched them both.
But Gray was there late in round 3 because he needs to prove that he's more than just like a rotational backup deep threat. Like
he had one big year.
Right.
It was Robertson at SMU that was supposed to be the guy. Gray actually was the guy this year. Yeah. But Watson wowed him at the Senior Bowl, man. And then he followed it up with the Combine. And I think he just became one of the favorites of the draft season for sure.
The Niners seem to, ever since they got Debo in the Senior Bowl, they seem to really put a lot of emphasis on that.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
If you're going to put emphasis on something, put it on the All-Star games. Don't put it on the Combine.
Yeah.
At least it's
all right,
football.
guys. That's our show for this week. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Larry, tell them what's up on deck for you.
I'm doing a post game tonight after Warriors Grizzlies. Hopefully the Warriors put them away, and we've been doing a lot of live stream post games and having a lot of fun with that. Doing a lot of Niners stuff. It's been great. Go to the Krug Show on YouTube. We just eclipsed 4,000 subscribers.
Congrats.
And we have 4 sponsors of the show. And if people want to sponsor, just hit me up in the DMs on Twitter, and I'll get back to you. We'll figure out if it's a fit.
That's right. And merch coming soon.
Merch. I got the merch.
Yeah.
I got the merch. I got the Krug Show t-shirts. In fact, Grant, let me throw this out there. If people want to support the channel and get the Krug Show t-shirts, they can go to Casera's Italian Men's Suits in Dublin. They've got a stock of the Krug Show podcast t-shirts there. And I got to thank you, bro, because you helped me get rolling in this.
Absolutely. Definitely make sure you get a Krug Show t-shirt. That's dope. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow? They announced the schedule tomorrow. Yes, something to look forward to. See you guys then.